The 1990s, a decade remembered for pop culture, rising technology, and change. But hidden beneath the music and the movies were stories that chilled entire nations. Tonight we're going back to the dark corners of the 90s to uncover the most disturbing crimes of the decade. The brutal murder of Shanda Sharer. January 11, 1992. Madison, Indiana. The quiet of a winter morning was broken by a horrific find. A hunter in a remote field stumbled upon a badly burned body. Investigators arrived on the scene, immediately recognizing the depravity of the crime. The victim was identified as Shanda Sharer, a 12-year-old girl whose life was extinguished in a manner too cruel to comprehend. The shocking question wasn't if she had been murdered, but who could have done this, and why? The answer, when it came, was a portrait of petty, adolescent jealousy turned monstrous. The motive boiled down to a teenage love triangle. The orchestrator was Melinda Loveless, just 16. She was consumed by rage because she believed Shanda had stolen her girlfriend. Melinda's threats against Shanda were dark and constant, but tragically, no one took them seriously enough. On the night of January 10th, the threats moved from whispers to deadly action. Melinda rallied 3 other teenage girls, Lori Tackett, Hope Rippey, and Toni Lawrence, to her terrible purpose. The mission was simple: lure Shanda out. They drove to her father's home and tricked the unsuspecting 12-year-old into the car with the promise of seeing her friend. What followed was hours of escalating torment. The girls drove through the night, crossing state lines, subjecting Shanda to a sustained, brutal, sadistic assault. Beating, stabbing, and relentless psychological torture, a nightmare enacted by 4 of her peers. 3 actively participated, 1 watched, horrified but silent. As dawn approached, the car finally stopped in a remote field. In a final, depraved act of calculated cruelty, Shanda's battered body was dragged out, doused with an accelerant, and set alight. Her attackers then drove away, their next stop a quick breakfast at a McDonald's. This casual final detail speaks volumes about the chilling detachment of her killers. The case broke when one of the girls, Toni Lawrence, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, confessed everything to the police. Her testimony ripped the lid off the horrifying conspiracy. The community reeled. The nation was appalled. A 12-year-old girl, tortured and burned alive, not by a stranger, but by 4 teenagers driven by nothing more than corrosive jealousy. Shanda Sharer's murder remains a dark, indelible stain on American true crime history. The memory of that night is a stark testament to the shocking, destructive power of teenage hatred. Rachel Nicholl, murder on Wimbledon Common. It was a Tuesday morning, July 15, 1992. Wimbledon Common, a vast, green expanse in one of London's most affluent suburbs, was a place of peace, a refuge from the city. But on that summer morning, it became the site of a brutal, terrifying crime that would haunt Scotland Yard for nearly 2 decades. Rachel Nicholl, a 23-year-old mother, was walking with her 2-year-old son on Wimbledon Common when she was stabbed 49 times in the neck and torso and died at the scene. The killer vanished, leaving behind a horror scene and a terrified little boy clinging to his mother's body. The sheer audacity and ferocity of the crime in such a public place immediately triggered a massive investigation. Officers of the Metropolitan Police undertook the investigation, under pressure to find the perpetrator by press coverage and public outrage at the circumstances of the murder. 32 men were questioned in connection with the killing. The investigation quickly targeted Colin Stagg, a man from Roehampton who was known to walk his dog on the common. As there was no forensic evidence linking him to the scene, the police asked a criminal psychologist, Paul Britton, to create an offender profile of the killer. They decided that Stagg fitted the profile and asked the psychologist to assist with designing a covert operation, codenamed Operation Edsel, to see whether he would eliminate or implicate himself. This operation was later criticized by the media and the trial judge as effectively a honey trap. What followed was one of the most controversial undercover operations in British legal history. A female officer, posing as a friend of Stagg's, spent 5 months building a relationship with him, trying to trick him into revealing details of the murder. She successfully elicited disturbing and graphic correspondence from Stagg about fantasies of violence, but he never once admitted to killing Rachel Nichol. The case went to court based on these fantasy confessions. The judge was scathing, ruling that the police operation was a deception of the grossest kind and excluded the crucial honey trap evidence. Colin Stagg walked free. The true killer remained at large, and a family's hope for justice was crushed. For the next 14 years, the case went cold, but it was never closed. Technological advancements in DNA analysis offered a new hope. Cold case investigators re-examined the crucial piece of forensic evidence found at the scene, a tiny sample of DNA recovered from Rachel Nichol's clothing. In 2004, DNA evidence finally identified Robert Napper as the man responsible for Rachel Nichol's murder. At the time, he was already in custody, serving a life sentence for the brutal killings of Samantha Bissett and her 4-year-old daughter in 1993. Napper, a mentally disturbed man with a long history of violence, later confessed to attacking Rachel on Wimbledon Common. In 2008, he admitted to the crime but was convicted of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility due to his diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia. He was ordered to be detained indefinitely at Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric facility, where he remains to this day. The revelation was a dual tragedy: justice for Rachel Nichol, and the stark realization that Colin Stagg had spent years under the cloud of a false accusation, while the real killer, Robert Napper, had been free to attack others. Ivan Milat, the Backpacker Murders. Between 1989 and 1993, the Australian wilderness hid a terrifying secret. 7 young backpackers vanished while hitchhiking through New South Wales, all last seen heading toward the Belanglo State Forest, a place that would soon become infamous. For years, police had no idea what was happening. Travelers were disappearing without a trace, and their families were left in limbo. But in 1992, 2 runners made a gruesome discovery: a partially buried human skeleton deep inside the forest. A second body was found nearby. When the remains were examined, it became clear they were dealing with a serial killer. Over the next year, more graves were uncovered, 7 victims in total, all tourists or backpackers from around the world. Each victim had been bound, stabbed, and shot, often showing signs of extreme cruelty. The pattern suggested someone was hunting them, deliberately. Investigators soon zeroed in on a man named Ivan Milat, a road worker from Sydney who loved guns and camping, and who was known for picking up hitchhikers. When police raided his home, what they found was chilling: weapons matching the bullets from the murders, ropes, and personal belongings of several victims. Milat was arrested in 1994 and later convicted of 7 murders, though authorities believe he may have killed many more. He never confessed, not even once, taking his secrets to the grave when he died in prison in 2019. The backpacker murders terrified travelers worldwide and changed Australia forever, leading to massive reforms in how police track missing persons and how tourists are advised to travel. To this day, the name Ivan Milat is synonymous with the darkest side of the Australian outback. If you found these stories as chilling as I did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll be covering more haunting real crimes in the next video. Let me know in the comments which case shocked you the most.